The lance has never been easier to learn than here in Wilds. In fact, I can get you started in less than 1 minute. So hit the timer and let's go. Lancing feels like a one-on-one punch out between you and the monster, blocking their strikes and countering with your own. Turning the game on its head by holding your ground and daring the monster to hit you. Simple to pick up, but with tons of depth to explore and express. And here in Wilds, it's never been easier. You'll attack with stabbing motions called thrusts. You'll do up to 3 in a row, followed by a finishing move. Then just repeat the loop. So go, hunt a Chatacabra and do this. Attack with triangle and guard incoming attacks with R2. Triangle performs mid thrusts 1, 2 and 3, followed by the finishing move triple thrust. You can even guard during triple thrust, so it's very safe. If the monster moves slightly, adjust your position with the step, direction and X. You can do this up to 3 times in a row. Just keep an eye on your stamina. And that's level 1 of Lancing here in Wilds. You'll have this down in less than 2 minutes. So pause the game and let's learn some more. Well hi, I'm Dunks, welcome to the channel, it's so good to have you. I love the Lance and I want to help you love it too. Now, since I raced through level 1, let's slow down a little and unpack what I just covered. When guarded, you are protected from the front and the sides, but not from the back. Though there is a way to do that, but we'll get on to that later. It's not just attacks either, you can also guard things like monster roars and wind pressure, so skills like earplugs don't tend to be a concern. When guarding, you'll have noticed a few things. 1. You may take some chip damage. 2. You'll lose some stamina. And 3. You may have experienced some knockback, a delay before your next input. All of this is just to balance the Lance, so that you're not some completely immortal being of pure radiant light. Just heal up when you need to, and I find that the other two tend to take care of themselves. You may also have noticed that you'll automatically hit back with your shield when guarding. All shield based moves deliver stun damage, so if enough of them hit the head, you could get a free knockout during the hunt. Nice! And for the record, shield attacks don't use sharpness. So yeah, pretty simple isn't it? Let's move on to level 2, where we'll expand the repertoire of our offensive arsenal. And it's still going to be really simple and approachable. Mid thrust aims low. So, to aim high, press circle to use high thrust, perfect against flying enemies. These can be used in place of any of thrusts 1 to 3. Mix and match as you see fit. So with mid and high thrust covered, let's discuss focus mode. Whenever you hold down L2, you'll be in focus mode. While performing a mid thrust in focus mode, you can strafe by adding a directional input, forwards, sideways and backwards. However, while performing high thrusts, you can turn on the spot by using left and right inputs. Many other Lance moves can be similarly directed. So experiment and see what might be helpful to you. I'll be using it a lot. While in focus mode, you'll see red spots appear on the enemy. These are wounds. Get in close to the wound, and while holding down L2, press R1 to perform Focus Strike Victory Thrust. This can quickly do huge damage, and can be guided by staying in focus mode with L2 and using the camera to move your hunter. We've discussed triangle, we've discussed circle. Now what happens when we use them both together? This is where it's helpful to start keeping track of which thrust you are on. You'll develop a natural sense for it over time, but you can always take a quick glance into the top right corner to see what's coming up. For thrust 1, triangle and circle perform the leaping thrust. This is a handy move where you jump forward doing some damage. Really helpful if the monster is just out of reach. For thrust 2 or 3, triangle and circle will do the wide sweep, a move with good damage and high reach. Note, you can only use it for thrust 2 or 3, not both. Learn this move, get used to using it, it's really good for making the most of openings. Right, that's level 2 done. And honestly, you can take on pretty much most of the game with just that. But there's still so much more depth and nuance to learn in level 3. I hope you've been enjoying this tutorial so far. If so, a like would be so encouraging to me as a small content creator. It's heartening to see that a video is well received, and it tells YouTube that other people are loving this, and that might help it get a bit more reach. If you do, thank you so much. You're the best. Level 3, Mastery. And this is where we really develop our depth. Let's start with a closer look at guarding. You are guarding and have just successfully blocked an attack. Here are your options. 1. Press triangle to perform return thrust. You've been using this already. Well done. 2. Press circle to use payback thrust. This hits very high for decent damage, but does have quite a bit of commitment to it, so be careful. Payback thrust has its own unique set of follow-ups. Press triangle to do the triple thrust. Press and hold circle to do a charge counter. We'll get onto this more in just a moment. And press triangle and circle together to do a wide sweep. 3. New move. Press triangle and circle together to perform retribution thrust. Your hunter will hop back and then rush forward doing damage. If you initiate your guard just as the incoming attack is about to land, you'll get a perfect guard. Listen out for this sound. After a perfect guard, you'll have the same options as before, but now you can use the directional input to perform that move whilst turning on a dime. Perfect for when the monster's attacks end up behind you. Perfect guarding also builds up power clashes quicker, giving more openings, and has lower knockback and lower chip damage. Lastly, on guarding, some monsters have moves that you can't block. An example is Doshaguma's Groundquake, but that has a long wind up where he stands on his hind legs, giving you time to sheathe and start running in a circle around him. Keep an eye out for a skill called Guard Up. I'm not that far into the game, so I don't know if it's here, but if it is, what that does is it allows you to block these moves. Though sometimes, for some reason, there's the occasional move that can't be blocked either way. It's a bit annoying, but it's one of those things that they've chosen to put into the game. Right, next topic, countering. Charge counter is available in place of thrust 2 or thrust 3 by holding down both R2 and circle at the same time. Your hunter will brace and guard from the front. When hit by an attack, your hunter will automatically hit back with a counter. You can also manually initiate this counter by releasing the buttons. It's also available as a finisher in place of the triple thrust. But strangely, you only have to hold down circle this time. Not sure why. At least it's simple, hey? Also, if a monster has not hit you yet, you can go into a charge counter from a regular guard by holding down circle whilst guarding. Okay, you're doing great. I hope this is all making way too much sense. Let's learn a really important technique, the power guard. Enter a charge counter state. Keep R2 held down, but move your thumb from circle to X. Keep R2 held down. You are now in power guard. Your stamina will quickly drain until hit by an attack, at which point the drain will temporarily cease. While power guarding, you'll guard from any angle, including behind you, without having to turn. You'll also receive less knockback than normal. Want to know what's even better? By blocking attacks in power guard, you strengthen your next attack. Well, the attack you use out of power guard. All of them can be directed, and these moves are: 1. Press triangle for the leaping thrust. 2. Press circle for a payback thrust. This has the same follow-ups as previously mentioned, but it gets a little complicated if I try and fit them all in the flowchart here. 3. Press triangle and circle together to perform our new move again, retribution thrust. If your power guard blocked some attacks, this move will be upgraded to the brilliantly entitled Grand Retribution Thrust. This is a more powerful version of the Retribution Thrust. And note, Grand Retribution Thrust can only be done out of power guard. The retribution thrusts have their own set of follow-up attacks, and they are all finishers. After the retribution thrust, 1. Hold down circle to begin a charge counter. 2. Press triangle to do the good old triple thrust. 3. Press triangle and circle together to do the follow-up dash attack. You'll charge forward lance first, doing little ticks of damage, and can be finished with a beefy thrust using triangle, or can be finished safely using a guard with R2. While performing a dash attack, you can hold forward and X to jump into the air, and then press triangle in the air to do an aerial attack. This helps build up towards a mount. One quick piece of advice I'd give when learning a new weapon is to watch other people play, especially with some of these advanced techniques. So if you'd like to watch me and join my streams, hit subscribe so that you know when I'm live. It would be lovely to have you as part of the community, and then you'll get to know when new guides come out. Would love to see you there. These last two moves are really important to get under your fingers, though they do have strangely similar names. Guard dash. Sometimes you need to adjust your position while guarding. That's what guard dash is for. More or less any time you're holding down R2 to guard, enter a directional input and press triangle. You'll hop forward with your shield raised, protecting you from incoming attacks. It can be used almost anywhere, so I've not bothered to put it into the flowchart. Hope you've enjoyed the flowchart, by the way. After a guard dash, you have two options. 1. Press circle to perform our old friend, the leaping thrust. 2. Press triangle to slap the monster with your shield, doing a bit of stun damage if it hits the head. Use this over the leaping thrust if you're happy with where you've landed after a guard dash. I heavily advise learning the guard dash and getting it under your fingers. It's a safe repositioning tool. The dash attack. This is similar to the one performed out of retribution thrust, but a regular dash attack can be performed from neutral. While guarding, with R2, press triangle and circle together and then release. Your hunter will charge forward, covering ground and slowly draining a bit of stamina. As previously discussed, press triangle to finish with a thrust, R2 to finish with a guard, or backwards and triangle to do a 180 turn slash. And hey, since you're still here watching at the end, here's one last very fun bonus move. You can joust. While riding your sacred, hold down triangle. You'll hold your lance out like a medieval knight. This does little bits of chip damage to nearby monsters. Great for fleeing opponents. Release triangle to perform a little sweep to finish. If you love Monster Hunter like I do, why not check out my love letter to it? The best thing about Monster Hunter. Leave a comment if this video was helpful, and I'll catch you on the other side.